Well, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. You know, there's only one way to get rid of a thug, and that's at the point of a gun. It's a shame that it has to be that way, but Maduro is making it impossible to have a peaceful resolution of what's going on in Venezuela. He actually had his people set fire to a convoy of humanitarian aid, foodstuffs, and medicine that were coming in to help his beleaguered people. And it's 2,000,000% inflation. It's just shocking what's going on. And now there's gas and gunfire and those weapons that were used to stop a humanitarian convoy from entering Venezuela. Hundreds have been wounded. Many are dead. We've got to get in there with troops, the whole thing. What happened in Panama is easy to do, and it's time for those people know the day of reckoning has come. And we need to be the hammer of justice. And I know we don't want to get involved, but the nations and President Guaido is asking for help. And I think he's actually called for military intervention. We need to help him. Terry?
Well, now Maduro is sealing off the borders to prevent more aid from entering the country. Meanwhile, Vice President Pence will meet with Venezuela's opposition leader Juan Guaido in Colombia. Chuck Holton has the story from the Colombia-Venezuelan border.
Pandemonium over the weekend as the supporters of interim President Juan Guaido attempted to get truckloads of humanitarian aid into Venezuela from Colombia and Brazil. National Guard troops loyal to dictator Nicolas Maduro blocked bridges to stop the aid, which Maduro claims is part of a U.S.-led coup against him. Lester Toledo, a representative of Guaido's party, leads the effort to get across the border. Days earlier, he talked of success.
23 of February, in this bridge, you're gonna be a witness of a humanitarian tsunami that will be around here, and we're coming into Venezuela with this humanitarian aid.
But things didn't go as planned. Saturday, thousands of desperate Venezuelans, led by Juan Guaido himself, tried to run the blockades and deliver 235 tons of American aid to their countrymen. By mid-afternoon, the effort fell apart as Venezuelan forces torched 4 aid trucks and fired tear gas at hungry protesters. Just across the border, criminal gangs loyal to Maduro looted stores and attacked those supporting the aid effort. As hopes for change went up in smoke, protesters expressed frustration with the Venezuelan troops standing against them.
We begged the National Guard to put themselves on the side of the Venezuelans. To think of your children, think of your families.
Here on the Colombian side of the border, you can see there's an incredible marketplace and lots of fruits and vegetables and everything for sale. In Venezuela, what we're being told is that there's absolutely nothing. So the question is, when is the military going to relent and stop supporting Maduro? Because he won't allow any of the products to come into Venezuela. And I just spoke with the wife of a military officer who told me off camera that the Venezuelan military officers really don't support Maduro. The question is, who's going to be the first guy to stand up to a dictator?
Other Venezuelans told us though the aid hasn't yet made it, they're grateful for the American support.
I know that God is with us all the time, and we have to tell you thank you. Thank you to the American people, because we need you. We need you, really.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Cúcuta, Colombia.
Excellent, Chuck. Ladies and gentlemen, I remember years ago when I was at Yale studying about Caracas, Venezuela. It was a model of a beautiful city. They had lovely roadways coming in. They had beautiful buildings. Everything about that country was a model. They had so much oil wealth, probably one of the biggest oil deposits in the entire world. Everything was running so smoothly. And then that communist, socialist, whatever you want to call him, Chavez took over in a military coup. And then he turned the nation into a nightmare. He closed down major oil companies, ruined the oil sector, has imperiled all of the financials of the country. And then after he died, in his place, they put in this former, what was he, a cab driver or something, a mechanic, Maduro, who knows nothing about government. And suddenly he's in charge of the country. And the Venezuelan people are suffering a huge humanitarian crisis. The time has come for military intervention. We cannot allow this to continue. It's like a cancer. Sooner or later, the cancer has got to be cut out. And meanwhile, the Trump administration is ratcheting up pressure on Maduro. John Jessup has that story.
That's right, Pat. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says Maduro's days are numbered. Fox News Sunday host Chris Wallace asked Pompeo how far the administration is prepared to go.
But no military force.
We've said every option's on the table. We're going to do the things that need to be done to make sure that the Venezuelan people's voice, that democracy reigns, and that there's a brighter future for the people of Venezuela.
All right, let's.
Florida Senator Marco Rubio sent his own message Sunday, tweeting a picture of former Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega before and after he was overthrown by U.S. forces. Rubio did not include any text with the picture, but some see it as a not-so-subtle message to Maduro about his fate if he doesn't step down. President Trump is preparing for round 2 with North Korea in his second summit with dictator Kim Jong-un in Vietnam this week. It comes at the same time, he faces challenges at home over his national emergency declaration and ongoing investigations. Amber Strong reports.
The president arrives in Hanoi for a 2-day summit with Kim Jong-un Tuesday. He's still pressing the regime to give up their nuclear weapons, but says he's proud of the progress he's made so far.
There's been no nuclear testing, no missiles, no rockets. We got our hostages back.
Even still, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the demand for complete denuclearization remains.
There's been no change in U.S. policy since the time I've been Secretary of State. Our objectives are clear. Our mission is clear.
Democrats say the president needs to walk away with a verifiable inspection program.
Nothing is clear, and I think as a result, we could run the risk that Kim is given concessions which are not accompanied by real concessions.
Meanwhile, in the background of the international talks, Congress has a few questions for the president's former attorney, Michael Cohen.
Why the false statements before our committee when he first appeared? Did they go beyond what he told us about Moscow Trump Tower?
Cohen will appear before 3 committees this week. The House will also be busy with a resolution to block the president's national emergency declaration over the border wall. Some GOP lawmakers are undecided about how they'll vote.
I don't know yet. I don't like the process. I don't think that the emergency declaration law was written to deal with things that the president asked the Congress to do.
Regardless, the president vows to veto the resolution. One thing that isn't likely to happen this week, the release of the Mueller report. Democrats say the public has a right to know what's inside, and they're going to release the report, even if they have to subpoena it or call Mueller to testify. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
Thanks, Amber. Pat, a lot going on internationally and domestically this week.
There is. I think with that question, we've been saying all along that Mueller, he's run to the end of his stuff. And Adam Schiff, frankly, just makes me sick at my stomach every time I hear what he has to say. It is so biased and so ridiculous. And now he wants to have hearings about stuff that went on before the president was elected. And what about building hotels in Russia and so forth? It's just nonsense. And it's time that witch hunt get finished. I think we're not talking too much about the fact that the man at the White House who was, at the Justice Department who's responsible for setting that a course of action of a special counselor, he's resigned. I don't know if they've got anybody to fill his place yet. I don't think so. But it means that the new secretary, the new Justice Department head has just been confirmed by the Senate, and he is a very respected gentleman, and I think it'll be some good stuff. But I tell you, in terms of this Maduro thing, without question, it's going to take military force. And it's just as well we get in this, we say, well, we don't want to be condemned as the North American conqueror and so forth. But when the acting president of the country calls on you to help him militarily, you have every right to go in and do it. And I think that we can't let those people suffer anymore. That Maduro has got to go, and he's got to understand what's going to happen. And I think the sooner he's captured, put in jail, have a trial for his war crimes, and they are serious, I think the message will go out to these potential thugs who would take control of countries. Well, there's something else we need to consider that has been so grievous to all of us. That is the incredible, incredible sex scandal going on in the Catholic Church. Pedophiles, nuns who claim that they're having affairs with others, priests that are siring children though they're not supposed to be married. It just goes on and on. And John has more about that. It's a shocking thing, but apparently the Pope is trying to get his arms around the matter and clean it up. John?
Thanks, Pat. Pope Francis condemned pedophile priests at the conclusion of a global summit on sex abuse in the Catholic Church. The Pope labeled predator priests tools of Satan. He also vowed to confront abusers with, quote, the wrath of God and make victims the priority. Abuse victims are calling for strong action, not just words. Well, the city of Philadelphia may boot out a Catholic foster care agency for its policy of not placing children with same-sex couples, even at a time when the city desperately needs foster care help. But as Paul Strand reports, Philadelphia may be willing to lose this faith-based agency because of its religious belief.
Much like the rest of the country, Philadelphia faces a challenge when it comes to finding homes for children. In March, it put out an urgent call for 300 foster families. At the same time, however, it demanded that Catholic Social Services endorse same-sex relationships or be ousted from their contract to do foster care business with the city.
Catholic Social Services has been serving the city of Philadelphia for over 100 years, and they've been doing that consistent with their religious mission since then. But the city has said that if they want to continue working, they have to endorse same-sex relationships, which is the one thing they're not able to do.
In court, lawyers at the Becket Fund pointed out Catholic Social Services helped 2,200 foster children last year alone. So banning this agency is going to harm many children and the foster families who need the agency's help caring for those kids.
It's hurting families like plaintiff Ms. Sharonell Fulton, who's fostered over 40 children in the past 25 years and has said she'd be devastated if Catholic closed. Catholic Social Services trains, supports, and provides ongoing advice and help to families like Ms. Fulton. They have social workers who are on call 24/7.
Regarding the decision, Fulton wrote in the Philadelphia Inquirer, "As a single mom and woman of color, I've known a thing or two about discrimination over the years, but I have never known vindictive religious discrimination like this, and I feel the fresh sting of bias watching my faith publicly derided by Philadelphia's politicians." Reeves points out Philadelphia is booting Catholic Social Services, though not one same-sex couple has complained about the agency.
There's a clear foster care crisis, and 35 beds are sitting empty today because the city won't work with an effective foster care agency.
Though this one is battling back in Philadelphia, other faith-based agencies have given up and closed down in Boston, Washington, D.C., Buffalo, and throughout Illinois rather than endorse same-sex relationships. As for Catholic Social Services, they say they won't give up and they'll continue to fight on, because the one thing they can't do is endorse relationships that aren't consistent with their religious beliefs. Paul Strand, CBN News.
Thanks, Paul. Pat, religious discrimination, strong words from that single mother.
Well, the incredible thing about the homosexuals is they are willing to destroy lives and destroy the whole fabric of society so long as they and their weird way of doing sex is legitimized. That's what they want, and they will to take away everything. They'll destroy marriage, they'll destroy families, they'll destroy in this case, the foster children. They're willing to tear down the entire edifice in order to have the majority of people recognize the way they do sex. That's what it amounts to. And 1%, ladies and gentlemen, get it, 1% of the country, from what we understand, are lesbian, 2% are homosexuals. And that is all. And yet that 2% and 1% are taking charge of the rest of us because they're so vocal and so authoritative, and they apparently dominate these legislative bodies. I think if Christians begin to speak out and insist that if some politician goes along with the gay agenda that they're going to be voted out of office. And once they get that message, they'll start saying, well, we want to listen to the majority of the people in our society. Until they do, that small minority is going to be dominating everything we do in every aspect of our lives. Mark my word, it's going to happen.